Hello students, myself Kumar Ujjwal, Faculty of PSIR since 2005, and today is 25th September, and couple of hours back I got the question paper of Mains PSIR 25th September 2022. So there is a curiosity always among the students to verify their answers. So that is very much legitimate curiosity, because after all that will decide their career. So without wasting the valuable time, just coming to the topic, that is question which has been asked in the exam. So today I am going to discuss paper 1, and the first question and first says that write on the following in about 150 words. 150 words each. So first A is only mentioning systems approach. Systems approach. First I will be focusing on understanding, then I will be giving you the ideal answer. So first you must be knowing what approach is. Approach includes both what to inquire, that is subject, and how to inquire, that is method. So as approach is both what to inquire and how to inquire. What to inquire is subject and how to inquire is method, a particular way of doing a thing in a skillful manner. So you must have first understanding of the topic, because question is very simple and straight, and it said system approach. So system word is derived from physics. First you must be knowing that it is derived from physics. Adiabatic system, isothermal system. So how you define system in physics? First, system is characterized by a set of elements or subsystems interacting with each other in a particular pattern, having a boundary which separates from the surroundings. So every system will have subsystems and elements interacting with each other, and every system will have a boundary. But here we are not talking about system of physics. Here we are talking about system in political science. And as you know that after Second World War, the traditional approach was replaced by behavioral approach, the scientific approach, in which David Easton, Almond and Powell and many others contributed to the behavioralism or scientific approach in political studies. So various tools from physical science were taken for refining the tools of investigation. So system model believes that the larger system is social system. Social system within which there are political subsystem, there are economic subsystem, there is cultural subsystem, and this is how there is interaction. If there be a study between political system and that of social system, it leads to political sociology. If we do discuss interaction between political and economic system, it leads to political economy. And if we do study interaction of political system with cultural system, it becomes political culture. So first you must have understanding that system approach or system theory or system model is inspired from physics. It developed in political science after Second World War due to behavioral revolution. And in the system approach, there are two sub-approaches or two sub-branches. One is cybernetic model of Davidson, which is dynamic model, where input and output are interrelated. Another is Almond and Powell's structural functional model. Structural functional model, which is static, where inputs and outputs are not interrelated. So, both kinds of systems are there, and we don't study politics in terms of state and its formal institutions. The shift of focus towards informal processes of politics. There is shift of focus from macro level generalization to micro level precision. There is shift of focus from philosophy to science, because in traditional approach, historical, institutional, legal approaches are being followed. Philosophical approach is followed, but in behavioral approach, from 1945 after Second World War to 1969, behavioral approach is followed, and there was an attempt to make political studies fully scientific, fully factual, fully empirical, full stop to political philosophy, no value-free study. Behavioralism says that it is better to be precisely wrong than irrelevantly vague. So, the focus is on precision. So, system approach, if you have to write the answer, first you have to clarify the time and space, that after Second World War in the US, in this time period, inspired from physics, and this approach is different and in contrast to traditional approach, and within which we have interdisciplinary branches like political sociology, political economy, political culture, and we do have broadly two kinds of systems. One is cybernetic model, which focus on input, output and feedback. This is of Almond and Powell. You cannot discuss in detail because the word limit is only 150. So you have to just refer that this is the cybernetic model, where political system is considered as CPU, demand and support are considered as inputs, decisions and policies are considered as output, and this system model is devised in capitalist country US for political stability, so that decisions and policies reinforces support, lessen the demand and leads to more political stability, because capitalism favors political stability, Marxism favors change. So this is a dynamic model because inputs and outputs are interrelated. If you further want to elaborate, material demand and support are in terms of goods and services, legal demands and support are in terms of new laws or amendment in laws, and support in terms of adherence to law, communicational demand in terms of information, participatory demand and support in terms of participation leads to support, and boycott leads to withdrawal of support. Same is the case MLCP, material, decisions and policies, legal, communicational and participatory. The same but in different languages followed in the structural functional model of Almond and Powell with 4 assumptions. where political communication and recruitment, interest articulation, interest aggregation, political communication by media are the inputs, and rule making, rule interpretation and rule application, they are done by executive, legislative and judicial branches. So the things are same, that there are inputs and outputs. Here also there are inputs and outputs, and political system is considered as CPU to process all those demands and support. It will try to process in such a manner that it decreases the demands and increases the support for greater political stability. So this you have to write, although you have to write in 150 words, but at least if you refer David Easton, cybernetic model, dynamic model, structural functional model, decision making model, which views political system in terms of centers of authoritative decision makings, because political system is different from other systems in terms of having centers of authoritative decision making. Political system. So David Easton defined politics as authoritative allocation of values. Means political system has the authority, the legal power to allocate the resources as per the demand and support. It will process all the demand and support to have output in terms of demand and decisions and policies. So decision making model is also part of system model, which focuses on the behavior of the political actor belonging to the political system. That focusing on uniformity in the behavior of the political actor belonging to the political system to find a pattern of uniformity and to arrive at a conclusion, like in science, based on observation, repetition, experimentation, demonstration, we arrive at a fact, statement of reality. Same was the case in behavioralism, in system model. So system model is result of behavioralism after Second World War attempt. Why, although this question does not give the space, why the behavioralism emerged and what was wrong with traditional approach, here you have to focus on the question. You know many things, but at the end of the day, cracking UPSC is an art, and art is a skillful application of knowledge, and the word limit is there, time limit is there. I am discussing from the larger perspectives for greater understanding, because I am not in the exam hall. I am with the students who have written the paper, or potential students who will be in future writing the answer. Without understanding, you cannot write. So focus in this question is, there are two keywords, system and approach. So first of all, approach is clear, then system word has to be clarified, then time and space has to be given, and then the contrast with the past has to be given, and then you elaborate on it and you give various models. And don't forget to give the applied part. Whatever you study in optional or GS, it is meant for what? Ultimately, it is meant for your application in day-to-day administration. So, application is in terms of what was the intent, what was the purpose of giving this model. Why capitalist countries wanted political stability. So, this application part you must conclude that this model was result of behavioralism. It was meant for political stability. This is the first question. Now I come to the second question, and this is question 1A. Now I am coming to question 1B. There only here also only two words are given. Cultural relativism. Cultural relativism. When the question is having only 2 words, it is very essential that you explain these 2 words. What is culture? First of all, culture deals with all aspects of society. It has both static and dynamic part. Static part, caste, community, social identities, language, which is not subject to change. But dynamic aspect, values, beliefs, perceptions, orientations. That is what culture is. Advanced stage of culture is civilization, although this has not been asked. This is more in political context. So culture deals with all aspects of society, be it art, architecture, language, literature, values, beliefs, perceptions, orientations, social identities. Both static and dynamic part of culture is there. And the question is relativism, comparison. So when we talk about cultural relativism, you must be knowing the paradigm or the syllabus from where the question has been asked. Whole syllabus should be in your mind, and the moment you see the question, you must be able to connect from where the question has been asked. So the question has been asked from postmodernism. This is key word of postmodernism. If you know the comparison between modernism and postmodernism, modernism was based on authority of science. Medieval age was based on authority of religion. That is not need to write, but I am just saying for understanding. So medieval period was based on authority of religion. Modern period is based on authority of science, and postmodern period is based on discourse. Postmodern period is based upon no absolutism, no absolute truth, no absolute truth, no universalism, no universalism. Cultural relativism means culture of different societies, different places, different communities are different. Their way of living is different. Their cultures are different. So in modern period, it was being argued that white culture was superior culture and other cultures must follow the white culture. But in postmodern studies, it was proved that there is nothing right and wrong. The father of postmodernism is Nietzsche, who says there is nothing right and wrong. It's all matter of perspective. It's regimes of truth. There is no universality. There is nothing like absolute truth. There is pluralism. And this was followed after Second World War as well. After First World War, League of Nations followed one culture, one nation theory, which created many internal problems in many countries. But after Second World War, many countries deliberately followed multiculturalism. Canada in 1970s followed multiculturalism. Australia in 1980s followed multiculturalism. America had already taken huge benefit of multiculturalism for so long. India follow multiculturalism. So here, if you can refer Kim Lika, the Canadian multiculturalist, and Biggu Parikh, the Indian the multicultural theory he has given in context of Third World War, in the context of India. So here you should focus upon both that multiculturalism, that you cannot respect a person without respecting his social identity. You cannot say that I like you, but I don't like your religion, Christianity. I like you, but I don't like your caste. I like you, but I don't like your state. Without respecting one's social identity, one's human dignity, based on human dignity, there cannot be multiculturalism, there cannot be cultural relativism, there cannot be. In India, we follow glorious mosaic model, we follow pluralism, we follow unity in diversity. we follow respecting all cultures, we follow composite culture, we follow multiculturalism. And many multicultural nations emerged after Second World War. So you must be knowing that postmodernism does not accept inherent strength of one culture over the other. Your way of life, your culture may be different from mine. That does not mean it is bad or it is low or it is second category. The same claim can be done by others that their cultures are superior. And cultural nationalism led to Second World War, partly. Hitler claimed cultural nationalism. That led to aggressive nationalism. So, in postmodern period, cultural relativism has assumed significance. And every country in era of globalization is facing diversity. And cultural relativism has become more relevant now than before. The relativity, the difference perspective, and your respect for the other cultures, otherness, will lead to coexistence. Otherwise, there will be always conflict. So this question also, first of all, the whole syllabus should be in your mind. And the moment question is being asked, first you link that this question is related with which topic, which subtopic mentioned in our syllabus. And it is very easy, not very tough. The reason is very simple. That you are knowing that paper 1, what is the syllabus, and it is not only paper 1, it is section A of paper 1. What are the topics mentioned in paper 1? Section A. So it's very easy. But if you don't connect, there will be always a great risk that the question is different or your answer is different. So, in postmodernism, the regimes of truth, the discourse, no universality, no absolute truth, pluralism, cultural relativism, they are the key words that you have to write. And multiculturalism of Kimlicka and multiculturalism of Bhikkhu Parikh, you have to mention. So, it's a very simple question. Now, I come to the next question, which has been asked. 1C. I am coming to the next question of UPSC. Today, 25th September, and you will be able to verify your answer, cross-check your answer easily. And you need not to have going here and there and all the time wasting your valuable time, because time is more valuable than anything else. So, 1C. The question is revolution in permanence. Again, I always emphasize and say that whenever you see the question, try to connect with thinker, theory, thought, time, context, geographical location, keywords. So, question is also very simple. Revolution in permanence. Revolution in permanence. Sometimes UPSC, by minor changes in language, try to confuse you. Because when you study Mao Zedong, you study cultural revolution, permanent revolution, perpetual revolution, little bit word has been changed. That does not mean essence will change. Because the question is very simple and 3 words are there: revolution in permanence. Suppose in first prima facie you are not able to connect. But if just think revolution in permanence means perpetual, ongoing. So, even if you are not able to connect, see all major revolution, glorious revolution, was it revolution in permanence? Did it talk about that? No. Industrial revolution was ongoing. American revolution, French revolution, it was not. Even Russian Bolshevik revolution talked about change, Marxism, Leninism. But Mao Zedong Mao Zedong, who staged successful socialist revolution in China 1949 that led to emergence of Red China, PRC, People's Republic of China, under Mao Zedong, talked about perpetual revolution. This was the word that you might have heard. But UPSC is minorly changing the language, but that will not change the essence. So, perpetual revolution. Now, you must have understanding that this was supported by Mao Zedong. Mao Zedong talked about lots of things, like cultural revolution, like guerrilla war, like inevitability of revolution, like 4 classes of Chinese society, many things he talked about, like China to lead the third power bloc. But we need not to write all the thoughts of Mao Zedong. The question is very specific, revolution in permanence. So Mao Zedong supported and justified perpetual revolution on the ground that the ideological dominance of capitalists were maintained and developed and stabilized over a long period of time. That cannot be erased by a socialist revolution of a transitional period. It will take many decades. This is the precise language of Mao Zedong, that this revolution, this socialist revolution which replaced capitalist system will continue for many decades to erase the capitalist influence. So ideological dominance or hegemony of capitalist cannot be erased in a small period of time, because it was not created in a small period of time. So revolution will be ongoing, it will be perpetual. Why Mao Zedong needed to say this? Because Marx talked about socialist revolution of a very small period of time, transitional period. After that there will be classless, stateless society, communist society would be formed. But Chinese state, Red Revolution, socialist state under Mao Zedong had to continue for many decades to erase capitalist influence, to erase capitalist dominance. So he justified that this revolution will be perpetual, it will go for many decades. Socialist state is here to stay. And classless, stateless society or communism, which is the ultimate objective or ultimate destination of communism in Marxism, Leninism and Maoism, because Maoism is Chinese brand, Asiatic brand of Marxism, Leninism. If that has to come, this socialist state had to continue for many decades. So this revolution faced many counter-revolutionary forces. On one hand, Jamindars and capitalists domestically. On the other hand, imperial powers, European powers, capitalist powers were threatening this revolution. But thanks to the people's support, thanks to the able leadership of Mao, that mainland of China remained red since 1949. So you have not to write that America did not recognize the sovereignty of Red China in 1949 and Mao Zedong in 1965 gave the cultural revolution, and you have to talk only on revolution in permanence, perpetual, ongoing for many decades. And the reason that Mao gave, you have to give, because every thinker, Marxist thinker after Karl Marx, highlights the importance of superstructure. So Mao Zedong also talks about ideology, also talks about the role of state, the role of socialist state, because Mao Zedong was not a thinker like Karl Marx. He was a statesman, he was a revolutionary leader. He had to justify the role of CCP, Chinese Communist Party. So this is also very simple question you will be able to write. Always try to keep in mind that whenever the 2 or 3 words are there in your question paper, you should focus on those words. What is revolution, unprecedented change, all comprehensive change, all around change is revolution. And which revolution is talking about, and who gave this terminology in which period? Because when you write about the person, time, space, geography, examiner is clear that you are knowing. You are not writing in air that okay, revolution in permanence means ongoing revolution, so in any context you are fitting it. No. If you are writing Mao, if you are writing context, if you are referring China, from the very first line, examiner will have no any confusion that you are not knowing. You are knowing. I move to the next question, and the next question is basis of power. This is also very simple question. The D, basis of power. So I always say that whenever the question is having 2 or 3 words, just in 1-2 line you explain that power is the ability of more powerful to influence the action and behavior of less powerful in a desired manner. But not more than that introduction, because only 150 words and you have to write the essence, core, you have not to write the fringe elements. Basis of power means what are the basis of power? So if you see power in a multidimensional way, the traditional concept of power focuses on force, coercion, forceful changes. This is traditional concept of power, that is focusing more on coercion, compulsion. And contemporary concept of power given by Hannah Arendt, she says strength is personal, power is political, to act in concert. So according to Hannah Arendt, power is inversely proportional to violence and coercion. Legitimate power, voluntary compliance. So power, what are the bases of power? One is traditional theory of power, then authority is legitimate power involving voluntary compliance, then influence where compliance is through persuasion, and force is the most negative form of power where compliance is through coercion and compulsion. So on one hand you have traditional concept of power, on one hand you have contemporary concept of power. Hannah says wherever there is a violence there is no power, and according to Hannah, strength is personal, force is natural, and power is political. How a group act in concert, power is with the group, not with the state. And Gramsci also talked about legitimate power. Gramsci talked about hegemony, ideological power. So what do you think? What is the power? It's a very simple question. Some say muscle power. Khalli is more powerful, or Modi is more powerful. Modi is having authority. Khalli. This is just to explain. You are need not to write those examples, because in 150 words you cannot give these examples. Just explaining. I am just explaining that the difference between authority and positive form of power and negative form of power. Then you have elitist theory of power, that power is with the elites, whether it's Pareto, Mosca, C. Wright Mills, Mitchell, Schumpeter, Sartori, they are all talking that power is confined to the elites, whether they are based on talent or intelligence or managerial power, or they have the inheritance power or whatever. The elites are having the power. Majority of population are commoners, they don't have power. So this is elitist theory of the power. Pluralist theory of power says that power is in groups. No, Realist theory of power says that power is in state. Postmodern theory of power says that power is in creating discourse. Power is all about regimes of truth. Power is everywhere, coming from everywhere, going everywhere. It's just like capillary. It's not that power is only in a state. Technocrats, scientists, capitalists, wealthy people, religious people are also powerful. So basis of power if you find, then you will find the different theories, different perspective. Some talk about muscle power, some talk about ideological power. Then you have hard power like military power, political power. Then you have soft power, to promote your culture, to ensure voluntary compliance of your way of life. Then structural power due to position. So who is powerful? If you go further, it is said that power of women for tolerance is more than that of men. Tolerance power. Gandhi also says power is not what you see in terms of violence, but power is in terms of ability to withstand the pain. Voluntarily, the courage to take up the pain. A powerful person will not retaliate. A powerful person will have the courage to die without retaliation, without violence. So Gandhian notion of power is different from Machiavellian notion of power. So power politics, realist theory, neo-realist theory, elitist theory, pluralist theory, Marxist theory will say wealth power is the ultimate power. Who is wealthy, one who is having dominance in economic structure will dominate in every sphere, be it political sphere, economic sphere, be it cultural sphere, ideological sphere. So it's very easy question, but at the same time in 150 words you have to accommodate all the important points, and if you accommodate all those important points, then only your answer is broad based. Suppose one is writing elitist theory, for example, one can write 1015 words, 500 words in elitist theory itself. But in UPSC, in just 150 words, you have to discuss all the bases of power. Means समेटने की कला भी आनी चाहिए. So we go to the next question. Locke's social contract. Again, the question is very simple. Here, it's not social contract. Locke's social contract. Social contract. So, as you know, that the theory of social contract individualism was given by Hobbes, Locke and Rousseau. Hobbes and Locke, Englishmen, in 17th and 18th century, and Rousseau, French, in 18th century. But the question is not regarding social contract theory. Question is Locke's social contract theory. So Locke was, first of all, you have to discuss that Locke was Englishman. He is considered to be father of classical liberalism because he favored constitutional government for the first time, and social contract means rational individuals came together to have a social contract by which civil society and state were created, and government to act as trustee of LLP. LLP means life, liberty and property. This is the language of Locke. Life, liberty and property. These were the natural rights. So social contract means what? First of all, you have to clarify that this is a hypothesis, not a historical fact. That to end certain problems due to absence of civil laws or state, social contract was necessary. Locke says man is not bad, man is sometimes good, sometimes bad. But since in state of nature there were no state, there was no contract, there were no laws, there were no professional judges, so every individual was interpreting the natural law in his own way. That leads to confusion, ambiguity, and ultimately that necessitated social contract. But unlike Hobbes and Rousseau, Locke says that social contract involved various stages. The contract by which civil society was formed, the same contract was not for state. They were formed by two different contracts. And Locke gave people means majority, to revolt against state. Disintegration of a state will not lead to disintegration of civil society. And government on behalf of a state has to act as trustee, caretaker, not owner of LLP, life, liberty and property. Man, individual, is the owner of LLP, the natural rights. So social contract, before social contract there was state of nature. In the state of nature there were natural laws. In state of nature there was no state, it was pre-civil society, pre-state condition of man. And what was the law, according to Locke, what was the nature of human being? He was not selfish but altruistic as well. So state of nature was not gloomy or anarchic, but at the same time there was confusion, ambiguity due to different and conflicting interpretations that necessitated social contract. And in the Locke's social contract, it is different from Hobbes and Locke, different from Hobbes and that of Rousseau. For Hobbes, absolutism of the state or monarchy reinforces individualism, but Locke talked about limited government. Limited government. He is considered to be father of classical liberalism because he for the first time advocated for constitutional government. And this is individualism. Individualism in Lockean scheme of things will be ensured when the role of state is minimal. Minimal state, non-interventionist state, to ensure more individual liberty and freedom. So in Locke's social contract, it is not irrevocable, it is not forever. People have the right of revolt. If government fails to act as a trustee, government will have limited role, limited state, and government would be duty bound to protect the natural rights, because in social contract, according to Locke, the individuals will surrender their natural rights conditionally, not unconditionally. And the condition is that state is duty bound to protect LLP, failing which people can revolt. So in scheme of Locke, the conditional surrender of natural rights by social contract and civil society and state were formed by two different contracts. Breaking of one will not lead to disintegration of the other. And Locke always favored limited government. So in this way, this question also you can write very easily. Here the key words should be that what is social contract. It is not historical, it is a presumption, it is a hypothesis. Before social contract, there was state of nature, there were natural laws, there were natural rights, After social contract, civil society and state came into existence, but they were formed by two different contracts. And government to act as a LLP of trustee of LLP, life, liberty and property. So Locke, this is favoring individualism. So this question is also very easy. You can be easily able to write this question, and the question 1 is complete. Now we go further and we see the question 2A. It says that factors like community, culture and nation, because it is, I always advise students that whenever question is being asked, just try to simplify and customize according to your understanding. If possible, try to write the keywords and try to find the relationship directly or inversely proportional, and then you will be able to write the answer in the manner which is required in UPSC. So the question is that factors like community, culture and nation weaken the hegemony of neoliberalism. So hegemony means ideological dominance of neoliberalism. This question weakens. This is the reason I have written the inversely proportional. Don't forget, discuss. When the question is discuss, then normally the questions have to written in 250 words. Although here word limit is not given, but it is implied because it is a question of 20 marks. So you definitely you have to write, if you are writing 150 words in questions of marks 10, then in marks 20, it's not just double, but roughly 250 to 300 words, but less than 300 words, around 250 words. Now, in this question where the word limit is more, you can write with more elaboration of the given topic. First of all, you have to clarify that neoliberalism emerged after 1950 in Western countries due to failure of welfareism in ensuring growth and sustainability, and that further got currency after 1991 on a universal basis. This is also popularly called Washington Consensus. This is also called LPG, liberalization, privatization and globalization, based on theory of functionalism, interdependence, material interdependence. It is also favoring good governance, new public management, deburdening of the state, and neoliberalism is focusing on lesser role of a state. It's not laissez-faire. Let me clarify. In laissez-faire, the role of state was minimal, non-interventionist state. But in neoliberalism, focus is on individual, and all collectivistic identity are being done away with or are being opposed. Collectivistic identity, be it nation, society, state, groups, civil society, they have no value according to Margaret Thatcher. If you can refer certain thinkers like Hayek, Nozick, Margaret Thatcher, Ronald Reagan, George W. Bush. Then this Isaiah Berlin, they all talk about non-interventionist state. They all talk about individualism. They all talk about the social group, collectivistic groups have no value unless being valued by individual. They all favored market economy, non-interventionist state, and in neoliberalism or good governance or Washington consensus or new public management or Thatcherism. This was in reaction to the wastage of resources because of welfareism. As social justice was called mirage, progressive taxation was called bonded labor. As Hayek says, the freedom is not a cake which can be distributed on the principle of equal share of all. Isaiah Berlin says that one cannot fly like eagle, one cannot swim like whale. How the state can enable him to do so? The freedom of man depends upon his will and capacity, not on the state. Means they oppose enabling role of a state. They reject the concept of positive liberty. Liberty cannot be equated with capacity. Positive liberalism or welfare state or T.H. Green or J.S. Mill, they think liberty in terms of capacity. But neoliberalism is just like classical liberalism, is just like laissez-faire individualism, although developed after 1950. And let me tell you the context, that war-torn economies of the West could not have been revived without neoliberal principles of economy, efficiency, effectiveness, sustainability, good governance, greater role of civil society, individual and market, political liberalism. So, if you have understanding of neoliberalism, then it focuses on individual, while here you have collectivistic things, community, culture, nation, they are all groups. And neoliberalism says that there is dilution of these identities and individual has immense potential. Individual can do anything if given freedom. So, individual's identity should not be submerged in any nation or culture or community or class or group. So, neoliberalism opposes social identities, opposes identity politics, opposes collectivistic groups. And this is why the question is very clear. If you have understanding of both these things, then correlation is very, very simple. I don't think it will be difficult to write, because students have studied neoliberalism, they know the thinkers of neoliberalism, they know what is community culture and what are the similarities between them, they know how it focuses on individual and focus on community. Because this you will be seeing in Western world, in even their films, that individual can do anything and individual centric things are there. Margaret Thatcher's statement is very much representative. There is nothing like society except individuals. And the all talks of social justice, welfareism, community, class, socio-economic rights will be compromising efficiency, economy, effectiveness, sustainability, good governance. So, in this way, you can write this question easily. I don't think it will be very difficult to write this question also. I move further and I go to further question 2b. What the question says, that equality of states. Equality of states means this E states means the property, cause equality of power means it is directly proportional to equality of power. Just try to write the question in your own language, in mathematical language, so that there is no confusion. But let me clarify one thing in UPSC. you should not consider the statement given as absolute truth. In UPSC, there is always or mostly demand of the other side of the coin. That what are the other's perspective, what are the other side of the coin, that also you must be knowing. So, equality of states caused equality of power, and equality of power is liberty. Means this is liberty. So this question is simple. Once you write in a simple language, and don't forget comment. Wherever the question says comment, it is the most strategic question in my opinion. Why I say so? Because in comment you are being asked to comment. And when you comment, then you elaborate the given statement, and then you have to be critical. That means you have to show the limitation of this statement in the second half of the answer, and your conclusion is original based on your observation. And in question of comment, the conclusion should be balanced, and at the same time it should be reflecting your originality. Because when you are being asked to comment, then definitely you have to link it with the present context. Here you have to go beyond concept. In most of the questions of UPSC, facts, concepts, score, current would be self-sufficient. But in my opinion, in questions where you see comment, then you have to go for extra caution. And if you go for that, you will get the reward for it as well. So, equality of states means, if I further simplify the question, equalities of states means economic equality. Economic equality is leading to equality of power. So, this question is not compartmentalized in Marxism, but it is very much closer to that, or you can say economic determinism. Why I am saying so? Because whether it's Machiavelli or Karl Marx or Kautilya, they all talk about the economy is equal to E is equal to E. Economy is equal to umpire, or your power depends upon economy. Although there are other opinion against it, that this economy is not the only power. Wealth is economic, power is political, prestige is social, acting in concert is power. We have just discussed the concept of power. So it is very easy to now write, because one related question, or not directly that, but has been asked earlier. So this question says, this statement says that equality of states means economic equality will lead to equality of power. So it is based on the presumption that economy determines everything. Economic determinism is there, and economic structure will determine politics, ideology, religion, state, politics, everything. Those who are wealthy, those who are economically dominant will dominate in every sphere. This is based on this presumption. Based on this presumption, it says economic equality or equality of a state, equality of states leads to equality of power. Means power is relational concept. Power is in relation, power the ability or capacity of more powerful in relation to less powerful. So if we want equality of power, be it society, be it between the states, although question is not in international relation, it is in first paper. So you have not to write from international relations perspective, you have to write it from the perspective of domestic politics. So equality of power That means if power is based on economy, if there will be economic equality of states, then there will be equality of power. Means in egalitarian society, the power imbalance would be less, the balance of power would be more. And if there will be balance of power, then there will be liberty, that is individual freedom. So the fundamental premise or conception on which this statement is based upon, it says that economic determinism first, and economic determinism leads to power balance, egalitarianism, and ultimately it leads to individual freedom. Liberty means individual freedom. Because in questions or in topics in my classes also you will be seeing, I take up the topic of liberty, equality and justice in one compartment, because liberty is not possible in highly uneven society, and there cannot be any political theory of liberty. There cannot be philosophical theory of liberty. I am not concerned with that. I am concerned with only political theory of liberty. There cannot be any political theory of liberty unless you talk about the role of a state in ensuring that. So how a state will ensure liberty or freedom? Freedom of a person having so many chartered planes and freedom of a person having no bicycle. Can the liberty be possible without equality? Can you talk about liberty without enabling role of the state? No, not at all in political science. In philosophy it may be possible. So, two things you must keep in mind regarding liberty. First, role of a state. And second, it should not be confined to the tiny class or privileged class of the society. So, liberty cannot be seen in isolation. It has to be seen in conjugation with equality. This question says, but you have to go beyond it. The question is comment. That liberty has to be seen in conjugation with equality and justice. Justice is all about balancing the claims of individual freedom with socio-economic equality, with fairness, with unbiasedness, with in a non-partition manner. That is what justice is. So question is not saying justice, but you have to write because it is implied. It is in letter, but in spirit, justice is there. So, in this way, first you have to write from one perspective. That those who believe in economic determinism like Machiavelli, like Karl Marx, those who believe in terms of that political power or power is based on economic power, they say that this power distribution cannot be even unless the economic resources are being equitably distributed. And liberty, meaningful liberty is not possible unless we have egalitarianism, unless we have power balance, unless we have socio-economic equality to be seen along with the claims of the liberty. Because if you talk only about liberty, some are more talented, more meritorious, more preferably placed, so they can reach such a height. Many others will remain low. So without equality and without taking material things into account, you cannot have genuine liberty. But this is one part of the question. As I said in comment, you have to change the paragraph and you have to write that there is other side of the coin as well. That economy does not only determine the power. Power is can be based on wealth, can be based on power, prestige. Wealth is economic, prestige is social, power is political, structural. So power Equality of power always not depending upon economy. Otherwise, all businessmen or top businessmen will become the president and prime ministers. In fact, Max Weber says, political parties are the powerhouses. He disagreed with Karl Marx. He rejected economic determinism. And within elitist theory also, Pareto says talent and intelligence is the basis of eliteness, not the wealth. So there is another side of the coin. But largely you have to support this statement. And finally, in the conclusion, you have to, after giving both perspectives, you have to conclude that material conditions or property or states or resources, they are so important in human life that without their equitable distribution, not equal, equal is neither possible nor desirable, equitable, as close to equal, there cannot be genuine balance of power and liberty. So it's very easy question, but in my opinion, whenever question or comment, you must practice more. Those aspirants who are going to appear next year, I always advise them to be more cautious on questions of comments. Anyway, we move forward and we see 2C. Question is 2C. This question says, elitist theory of democracy denies possibility of democracy as rule of law. Elucidate. This is very, very simple question. Why I say? Because just in rough, first you write the relationship between the two components of the question given. So the given question can be written in language of mathematics first. That elitist theory of democracy, elitist theory of democracy denies means, of course, it is going antagonistic, or it is antithetical, or it is incompatible, or diagonally opposite. So it says denies the possibility of democracy as rule of law. Rule of law. It's very simple question. Question is elucidate, and let me see the marks allocated, because your answer, length of your answer depends, lots of things. You can write in 5,000 words, but you have to write here only in the words given. So marks is 15, neither 10 nor 20. Be careful. So you have to write in between. In 10 marks question, you have to write in 150. In 20 marks question, you have to write in between 250 to 300. So you have to write in between. That is almost roughly 150 words. Means 200 words. Because in 10 marks, 200 to 250 words you have to write in 15. So always see the marks given in the question. But definitely your answer, your length of the answer depends upon the marks, definitely. Because ultimately you have to finish the exam in time bound manner. It's not only manifestation of your knowledge and how much you know and how much you can write. It's not a university exam. After all, you have to finish the paper in time bound manner with understanding and with loud and clear message to the examiner that you have understood the question, you have fulfilled the demand of the question, you have adhered the word limit, you have adhered the time limit. Ultimately, time limit will not be seen by examiner, but ultimately that will help in finishing the paper in a clinical accuracy. Again, coming to the point. So, elitist theory of democracy. You know what is elitist theory of democracy? One is classical theory of democracy of Abraham Lincoln. Democracy is ruled by the people, for the people, of the people. And elitist theory of democracy resulted from sociological studies. Who is ruling? It's not talking about the form of government only, it's talking about how the democratic principles are actually realized in society, who is dominant. So it always talks about minority elites are ruling over the majority workers. Minority elites are ruling over majority commoners, not workers. Workers is in Marxist ideology. Elitist theory, where there are various names like Pareto, like Mosca, like C. Wright Mills, right, Schumpeter, like Aron, like so many, like Sartori. So, like Mannheim. Elitist theory of democracy is pessimistic theory of democracy. It sees that only minority elites are ruling the majority commoners. Pareto says it is based on talent and intelligence. Mosca says it is based on capacity of organization and class. C. Wright Mills talked about power elite. Schumpeter talks about that majority of people are irrational. Mannheim talks about managerial qualities. So, elitist theory of democracy is pessimistic, as it sees social composition, it sees who is ruling. Like Mitchell gives iron law of oligarchy, that most of the people having political dynasty are ruling. Where is talent, where is intelligence, where is other factors? Where is people's rule? There is no people's rule. As elitist theory developed in reaction to classical theory. So, what is elitist theory? You are knowing all the thinkers, you are knowing how it is pessimistic, how it developed, how it emerged, what was the context, how it emerged in reaction to classical theory, all these things you are knowing. But you have not to write essay on elitist theory. See the question. Elitist theory of democracy is antithetical to rule of law. Because if the elites are there, whether they are based on wealth, power, dynasty, whatsoever, definitely the relationship in society would be uneven. Just I talked about uneven power distribution in society. So if there will be uneven distribution of power between elites and commoners, the elites will always manipulate the laws, twist the laws, misuse the laws to their advantage, to the disadvantage of common people. So, question is saying that this rule of law as a principle is unrealizable if elites are ruling in the democracy. If democracy has to be realized as people's rule, then the VIP culture, the elitist culture, the dynastic politics has to be discouraged. And rule of law means it is different from rule by law. In rule by law, rulers rule the other people based on law. The law will not be applicable to them. But in rule of law, which is the essence of democracy, which leads to predictability, Dicey gives the principle. And democracy does not mean arbitrary rule of the public representatives. It means rule of law. That means law should be equally applicable to the rulers or representatives or the leaders or the parties equally. Law will take the same course for all. So rule of law is essential feature, constitutionalism is essential feature of democracy. Otherwise, it will be only in name. Formally, there is rule of law. But because of elites, because of highly uneven distribution of resources, or because of huge inequality in the society, this will not be substantive. This will be only in name. You might have heard that elites, powerful, they twist the law, they manipulate the law. Laws for the common people are to be differently applied from those of elites. So this question is mainly true. But as I said again, that you have to see the key word of the question paper, that this question says elucidate. Elucidate means to explain. Means wherever you explain, you use simplest possible language, number one. Whenever you explain, you give some examples. And whenever you are being asked to elucidate or explain, this means it is based on presumption that the given statement is by and large correct. And this is true also here in this case also. Prima facie, anybody will say that in democracy, people's rule should be there. It's not the rule of elites. It's not the arbitrariness and unilateralism of elites. Anybody can say. This is very matter of common and simple understanding based on common sense. Even the students of no political science background, they can understand this question easily. So I don't think that it will be very difficult to write, and most of the students might have done good in this particular question. Now I come to the third question. Third. And third A. Examine. This keyword is given initially, so I would like to discuss this. In examination, what is tested? Your merit, your knowledge, your ability, your talent is being tested. So in examine, you have to test. You are being asked to examine. You are examiner now. From that perspective, you have to write. Means righteousness, whether the given statement is right and wrong. But this does not mean that you can be a biased examiner. You have to be very much balanced, and you can't examine unless you see the statement. You can't have predetermined notions. Examine the liberal theory of state in contemporary politics. Liberal theory of state in contemporary politics. Again, the question is very simple. Why I am saying you can write 10,000 words sentences on a state. You can write 5,000 words or 5,000 lines in regarding a state in our liberal theory of a state. But the question is very specific. Liberal theory of a state in contemporary politics. Contemporary politics, the time is specified here. You have not to write all the background and classical theory of classical liberalism and welfare state, and now come to the contemporary period. Contemporary means after First World War, in last 100 years, primarily after Second World War. That time period is called contemporary. Contemporary politics. So time period is after First World War, 1919, or you can say after 1945 in contemporary world history NCERT. It is written that mainly after 1991. After 1991, there is no watertight compartmentalization. But contemporary is which is nearer to us. You can't talk about 14th, 15th, 16th, 17th, 18th, 19th century. You have to talk about 20th and 21st century. So that is contemporary. And politics, of course, involves state. Whenever we talk about politics, there is always involvement of state, direct or indirect. So, examine liberal theory of state. Liberal theory focuses on non-interventionist state. Interventionist state. Liberal theory says state is a minimal state. State is necessary evil. But in contemporary politics, if you see liberal theory of state, liberalism assumed the form of neoliberalism. You are not writing classical liberalism or classical capitalism of Adam Smith, Ricardo, Malthus, Hobbes, Locke, Rousseau. You are not writing about positive liberalism and welfare state and Keynes and that of J.S. Mill and T.H. Green. Contemporary politics, you have to write more focusing on 1950 in Western world and 1991 contemporary politics. So, examine. Once you have to examine, you cannot be lopsided or biased. You have to highlight the positives and negatives of neoliberalism or liberal theory of state both. First, positive aspect, that disintegration of Soviet Union in 1991 led to renewed legitimacy and acceptance of neoliberalism, good governance, Washington consensus, LPG, functionalism. In one line just you write, because you don't have leverage to write functionalism and globalization and LPG in separate lines and elaborating on that. Because what in a lucid manner you have to write all those things. In lesser words, you should write, give more contents, but as per the question. In writing more things and giving more things, you can't miss the time period, you can't miss the geography, you can't miss the location, the context. So, the positive aspect, that for economy, efficiency, effectiveness, sustainability, judicious utilization of resources, to reverse misallocation of resources, and sustainability. The neoliberalism or liberal theory of state has so many achievements on its account, and we see higher growth, judicious utilization of resources of the world, relative advantage of production, comparative advantage of production in globalization, and that has led to higher standard of living, creation of assets, growth, removal of poverty, trickle down. All those are positive aspects. But whenever you are examining, you are not seeing only positive aspect, you have to see the negative aspect. And when you are talking about negative aspect, then you can't miss 9/11 2001 terrorist attack. 9/11 terrorist attack renewed the role of state for ensuring security, because security cannot be provided by private sector. Similarly, 2007 subprime crisis again increased the role of state and welfareism, bailout packages, recapitalization, sovereign debt crisis, Eurozone crisis 2011 onwards, COVID-19. All these necessitated course correction in framework of neoliberalism to ensure greater role of state periodically. It's a political decision by the state when to increase this role and when to decrease this role. So, there are so many achievements, but in neoliberalism, in globalization, it is not a symmetrical phenomenon. It has led to more jobless growth, it has led to more inequalities, it has led to emergence of fourth world, it has led to more outsourcing, it has led to more migration of population, demographic changes. These are negatives. So, it's not that all is well in neoliberalism. It's not that all are positives in this. I always say that unless question says elaborate or elucidate or explain, you have to think that the statement given is not absolute truth. Based on that, you have to write the answer. So, the question is very simple. This also you can write easily. Then I come to the next question, that is 3. B. Human rights are complex and contested social practice. Human rights. What it says? It is complex. First part is complex. Second part is contested. Contested. Social practice that organizes relationship between individuals, society and the state. Again, the question is comment. Favorite. Here it is more strategic question whenever the question is comment. So first you have to elaborate that what is human rights. Every human being is entitled for certain minimum rights based on dignity of individual called human rights, and the beginning of human rights was from Magna Carta 1215, in which arbitrary power of taxation and punishment of king was done away with. Immanuel Kant gave the concept of human dignity, that man is not the means for certain ends, but man is the end in itself based on human dignity, and human rights concept became more reinforced with the French Revolution, liberty, equality, justice, more reinforced because of massive violation of human rights during First and Second World War. This is the reason why in UN Charter it clearly says protection and promotion of human rights. So this is what human rights, but it is complex. Why it is complex? Because human rights is not talking only about natural rights or the conception of civil and political rights. Civil and political rights are called blue rights in Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Then socio-economic rights are known as red rights, inspired from socialism, Marxism. Then green rights, environmental rights, cultural rights, religious rights, minority rights, environmental rights. So why it is complex? Because it will not take into account only blue rights. If you talk into only blue rights, then it is prevalent in capitalist liberal countries. If you talk about only red rights, then it is in Marxist countries. Third world countries, the green rights are more valuable. But if you talk about human rights, it should be universal. It should not be drenched or biased in particular ideological things like capitalism or socialism. It should be universal. And it should be based on concerns of humanity, based on dignity of individual, inalienable rights. So it's true that American and French Revolution not only reinforced the concept of democracy, but rights of man and citizen, inalienable rights, natural rights. In our constitution also fundamental rights. This complexity, best example is in India itself. You see the conflict between part 3 and part 4 led to conflict between judiciary on one hand, which favor fundamental rights of part 3, and executive legislature on the other, which focuses more on community rights. So why it is complex? Because it is not taking into account only individual claims. It has to take into account society, social claims, group claims. And being a student of political science, you must be knowing that after liberalism, socialism emerged. And in 19th century, in wake of socialist challenge, liberalism, capitalism had to go for course correction. On one hand, it adapted welfareism. On the other hand, it adapted democracy. So when it adapted welfareism, it accepted social rights. It accepted socio-economic rights. It accepted egalitarianism. It accepted progressive taxation. But to what extent? This is the reason of complexity. This is the reason why after welfareism there was neoliberalism. So it's complex because situation is dynamic, and moreover conditions of the world is asymmetric. Equality will be more focused in poor societies, while in prosperous societies individual freedom would be more focused. And state, the role of a state is always crucial. Capitalist state may give primacy to this, socialist state may give primacy to this. In multicultural state or third world countries, primacy will be also given to this, but all has to be balanced, all have to be balanced. This is the reason why there is Universal Declaration of Human Rights on 10th December 1948. Further, there were covenants and right to property and right to get asylum, socio-cultural rights, economic rights, religious rights. And this concept is complex. First part you have to discuss and contested. Since it is complex, so there is contest. Why there is context? As I said, capitalist countries will focus on first category of rights. Communist countries will focus on second category of rights. And in this category, cultural, religious rights, environmental rights, there will be always contest, and there will be controversy, there will be conflicting claims. So it is true. But I remind you students, question here is comment. So it's not that you have to accept that this given statement is absolute truth. कोई ब्रह्मा का वाक्य है ये, not ब्रह्म वाक्य, ऐसा नहीं. Comment. You have to change the paragraph and say, in spite of all complexities and contest, human rights not only mentioned in Charter of United Nations, but also there is universal declaration, irrespective of nation, so state, government, individuals, society, and so on. It has to be adhered, and it has been followed, irrespective of caste, creed, religion, race, color, ethnicity, gender, and so on. In fact, it has got more acceptance after 1991. Although in 19th century, Immanuel Kant, who was deontologist, also favored dignity of individuals. This is, human rights is based on dignity of individuals. Human rights are not based on your talent of different individuals, caste or creed or religion or whatsoever. That there are certain universal moral principles that Immanuel Kant says categorical imperative, and deontologist, duty for sake of duty, out of moral conviction. So Immanuel Kant also contributed greatly to the concept of human rights. So you have to write the other part, and lastly, in conclusion, you have to be very balanced. That is true that is partly complex and contested, but at the same time, universal declaration with uniformity, with by accommodating an international governance and universal acceptance, it has served the purpose of humanity. Not in an idealistic manner, but definitely to the greater extent, reducing cruelty, reducing genocide, war crimes, hostilities, and so on. So you have to conclude in this manner, and then we move forward. So this question is also very simple, and question is of 15 marks. So you know the word limit. So question 3C, I come to the next question. 3C. This says individualism is inherent in Hobbes' absolutist ideology. This is very, very simple question. Hobbes, as you know, 17th century English thinker. He says that fear and I was born together. He was the tutor of royal family, and he favored the absolute monarchy. if you know the context, if you know the situation, if you know the inclination, as you see the civil war in England in 1640s, in which Charles I was beheaded in 1649, then there was glorious revolution after that, but Hobbes was before that. So Hobbes favored absolute monarchy for individualism. Why I am saying question is so simple? Because in the same paper, question on Locke has been asked, in which the more powerful state was antithetical to individualism. And Hobbes, Locke, Rousseau all come in same category. Social contract, individualism, mechanistic theory of a state. That state is creation by the social contract, by rational individuals. It is artificial, it is just like means, it is just like machine for sake of convenience of man. State is not natural. As for Plato and Aristotle, state is natural. Question is here very simple. Hobbes favored absolute monarchy. He was the tutor of royal family. And in this absolute monarchy, you have to explain. And individualism, you have to explain. Very simple question. In this, Hobbes says that there should not be separation of powers, concentration of powers. Hobbes says Leviathan, the sea monster as state. Hobbes says irrevocable social contract. Revocable social contract. Unconditional surrender of all natural rights. Unconditional surrender of all natural rights. And civil society and state were formed by the same contract. So disintegration of state will lead to disintegration of civil society. And he gave primacy to the state for sake of individuals, because according to Hobbes, man is selfish, brutish, quarrelsome, jealous, antisocial, animal type. And this absolutism is necessary evil to suppress badness of human nature for their benefit, because ultimately individual is rational. One, individual may refuse to render military service to the state if it endangers his life. Individual will retain right of self-preservation, which is the most right of self-preservation, which is the most important natural right. Hobbes never talked about collective interest, common interest, social interest. He always talked about individual interest. So this is the means, while individualism is the end. This is thinker. Because, so whatever thinker says, you have to go accordingly. You cannot say Hobbes is right or wrong, or you cannot say Locke is right and Hobbes is wrong. No, who are you to become the judge? Question is simply asking, comment on this. So you have to elaborate on this. And how there was absolute monarchy? Because sovereign was the sole main interpreter of law. Sovereign is the main source of justice. No separation of powers. Irrevocable social contract. Unconditional surrender of all natural rights except right of self-preservation. So, individual is the sole main source of law, sole interpreter, main interpreter of law, sole main source of justice. Individual, absolute monarch will decide what is right and what is wrong, what is moral, what is immoral. Not the state, not the individual. Individual, the monarch will decide. So it is said that Hobbes' absolute monarchy is having head, while Rousseau's is not headless. Both talk about absolutism, but Hobbes talked about legal sovereignty, Locke talked about political sovereignty, and Rousseau talked about popular sovereignty. So in this way, This question also you can write in a very simple manner. It will not be very difficult. Then I come to question 4. 4A. Dr. Ambedkar's ideas. Now it is in IGP. Fourth, Dr. Ambedkar's idea of social justice leads to egalitarian justice. So first you write Ambedkar. First simplify the question. Ambedkar. Ambedkar's idea of social justice leads to egalitarian social justice. Egalitarian justice. As compared to, this is interdisciplinary question and comment also, Rawls' theory of fairness and justice. Rawls' theory of justice. Fairness, as you know, Rawls' biggest achievement was in terms of fairness and justice, which aims the notion of pure procedural justice. Let me clarify one thing, that some students may think that examiner is expecting that you belittle Rawls and you highlight and glorify Ambedkar only. Here you are wrong at the very onset. The question says comment. So partly this statement is correct, that Rawls focusing more on procedure. His theory of justice is inspired from social contract theory. He rejected utilitarian theory of Bentham. How greatest happiness of greatest number or sufferings of others will be compensated by increasing the happiness of you. True. He says that original position, benefit of all, mutually beneficial venture, chain connection, the weakest must be reinforced. Two principles of justice. First, liberties of all, then equality of opportunity, and then departure from equality is only when weakest part of the chain is reinforced. So he is focusing more on procedure, distribution of public goods or social goods, public goods or social goods. But Rawls is more focusing on individuals because his theory is inspired from social contract individualism. Veil of ignorance, nobody will know his position, so that he will not be biased, and the chain connection, these are the keywords. Two principles of equality, and he is talking about right, not the good. So deliberative democracy and all those things he favor. You know the Rawls' theory of justice, and you know the UPSC always asked interdisciplinary question. It's not that they have asked Gandhi, Ambedkar, Gandhi, M.N. Roy, Kautilya and Machiavelli, and the same thing would be repeated. No. Be ready for all the time interdisciplinary question. I repeat all the time in class that classification, it appears very traditional method, but when you prepare for UPSC, perspective study, contrast, comparison, similarities, dissimilarities, preventing intermingling is very, very important. Now, Ambedkar, justice is considering first and foremost difference is that Ambedkar saying justice is the feature of society, not individual. He talks about societal structure, social justice, and he believes that caste structure is the base for all discriminations in the society, and he believes that in French Revolution, liberty, equality and fraternity, that without equality and fraternity you cannot have genuine liberty, you cannot have social justice, you cannot have justice, and the gross injustice is due to Brahmanical religion. He says that Manusmriti should be blown up with dynamite because social discrimination to untouchables or the depressed classes is justified by religion. Religion is unless addressed, social inequality cannot be addressed. So, it's true that social justice, Ambedkar is the greatest champion of social justice in India. But let me clarify that you have not to agree with the question given 100%. Rawls' theory is partly procedural, partly contractual, and partly distributive. That how to distribute public goods like resources, wealth, income, means of power, prestige. So it's not only procedural, first of all. Rawls tried to balance between liberalism and socialism. And still he gives scope for individual, still he gives scope for inequality if the stronger reinforce the weakest, then there will be Pareto optability, it is called in economic language, means one should not get the expense of the other, one should get by contributing to the others, chain connection. But Ambedkar's focus was based on social realities, social structure, caste system. He favored annihilation of caste. He did not believe that justice is the feature of individual. What if one is born in Brahmin family and one is born in Dalit family? Is it the fault of the person? Because Ambedkar talks about caste system is based on ascribed status, not on based on achieved status. Ambedkar favored urbanization, industrialization, class divided society, and achieved status rather than ascribed status. And this is the reason why social justice. In social justice, the depressed classes, the untouchables, the women, the deprived, the marginalized, the underprivileged sections of the society. And this is the reason why he favored caste-based reservation, because caste is the reality of the Indian society. So this question is very simple, and as I said that you have to write in terms of comment. The question, now again I come to in the next question, 4b. The panchayats with Gram Sabha should be organized as to identify the resources locally available for the development of agriculture and industrial sectors. Examine the statement in the context of Gram Swaraj. So first is Gram Sabha. And context of Gram Swaraj. And how they have to link to be organized. Resources. The question is focusing on identify the resources locally available. Locally available. You can link it with vocal for local also. For the development of agriculture and industry, both. Examine the state. Let me clarify, when you examine, you cannot be lopsided. So first, you have to highlight the positive aspect, that Gram Sabha under Article 243A created by 73rd Constitutional Amendment 1992 was made stronger with the passage of time, and even in subsequent legislations, Gram Sabha, which consists of all registered adult voters, are constituting legislative body at the village level, and the very participation of the people, virtually direct democracy, will lead to more mobilization of locally available resources. When we talk about resources, we are not talking about only natural resources, we are talking about physical resources, human resources. And Gram Sabha's role is very giving legitimacy to resource mobilization, support to resource mobilization, as 29 subjects are to be transferred from state government to local bodies under Article 243G. And Gram Swaraj means self-rule of the village. Of course, Whenever we talk about Panchayati Raj, it is grassroots democracy, it is for good governance, it is for participative democracy, it is the development as per locally felt needs, it is bottom-up approach, it involves legitimacy and participation of the common people in governance and decision making. So here it's not talking about women or SC/ST or social justice. Here Gram Swaraj. So naturally, the Gram Sabha has huge role to play in resource mobilization so that their dependence on central and state government reduces. The question is not regarding what are the sources of fund. Earlier UPSC asked in that based on Central Finance Commission, based on State Finance Commission, centrally sponsored scheme, then resource mobilization. But the question is local mobilization. And agriculture and industries, examine agro industries, labor intensive industries, agricultural economic zone, agriculture growth of 4% as per National Agriculture Policy, or performance of agriculture sector during COVID. All these things you can refer. And also that in 90s Indian agriculture was not that much competent, so we went for more wall protection or tariff wall protection. Now our focus has shifted. Now our agriculture has become competitive thanks to Gram Sabha, thanks to the local mobilization, that now we are focusing on domestic support rather than tariff wall protection. And industries we cannot forget. Whenever we talk about industries, that does not mean big industry, heavy industries situated in urban areas. No. Agriculture based industries, animal husbandry, agriculture and allied activities, fisheries, sericulture, so many, for flowers, so many development. So industries, industrialization, labor intensive industries, cottage industries, village industries. So that will definitely help in attaining Gram Swaraj, because Article 40, organizing and empowering village panchayats in such a manner and enduing them with such powers that they work like local self-government. So you will be able to write the both part, but since the question is examined, so you have to change the paragraph and you have to write there are the limitations of the local bodies. They are always facing fund crunch, they are lacking skills, there is brain drain to urban areas, there is lack of formal education to the representatives, and so many other impediments like apathy of bureaucracy and the indirect way in which state level politicians see as their encroachment in their own domain. All these are negative aspects also, or limitations. But we are going in right direction. We are empowering people. It is leading to participative democracy, decentralization. It is leading to bottom-up approach. And this is how it will be not protective democracy only, but inclusive democracy. So definitely this is the case. And next question is, examine the entitlement theory of justice. So entitlement theory of justice. Theory of justice. First of all, you have to explain justice is having root word just, Latin word which means bond, which gives the members of the society together. It balances the claims of individual liberty with socio-economic equality, with fairness, in an unbiased manner, in a fair manner. That is what justice. But question is not regarding justice. Question is regarding entitlement theory. Who is entitled? Who is entitled to get what? So if you talk about Plato, Plato says everybody must get his due. Plato talked about desert. One should get what one deserves. Desert. But Aristotle talk about merit, not on desert or talent. This desert or talent, here merit. Merit is socially progressive. Even underworld don can be talented, but that is harming the social cause. So Aristotle says merit, it is serving social utility, and it is progressive, and ultimately this is more progressive than this. So both talked about proportional justice. Proportional justice says treating equals equally, unequals unequally. The more needy should get more able should get more. It says that everybody would contribute according to his ability and would get according to his needs, ability and capacity. In terms of ability, Plato talks about desert and Aristotle talks about merit. This is the difference. But in justice, you will be always talking about entitlement. Like Aristotle was very much specific. He divided justice into absolute justice and particular justice further into distributive justice and corrective justice. So distribution of public goods, distribution of social goods should take into account not only needs but ability and capacity all. You have to balance. More needy should get more able should get more. And this is always a matter of debate. Who is entitled for what? Lasky gave the theory of reward. There cannot be equal reward for unequal contribution. Otherwise, it will lead to parasitism. So, Lasky favored balancing of liberalism and socialism. Then, Amartya Sen talked about entitlement by reducing the incapacities. Why the weak is weak? Because of lack of capacity. So, capacity enhancement will reduce the inequalities. So, in justice, you have claims of liberty, equality, and you have fairness, you have balance, you have impartiality, you have non-biasedness. All these are components of justice. And finally, in Rawls' theory of justice, as I just discussed, it is partly contractual, partly distributive, and partly procedural. That procedure of distribution should be fair and predictable, and distribution should also be just. So, entitlement theory talk about who is entitled for what. So, that question also you can easily write easily, and we move forward. Analyze the workers' movement in India in the pre-independence period. This is the next question in IGP 5A. So, workers' movement. Let me clarify. The question is very specific. You are not writing a workers' movement in whole length. Question is very specific. Analyze. Analyze means you have to break. The workers' movement in India in pre-independence period means before 1947. So there are phases of workers' movement in 1860 onwards till First World War. There is the first phase of workers' movement, because workers as a class emerged only after modern industries came into existence. Paper industry, chemical industry, then later iron and steel industry, and textile industry, jute industry, they came into existence. So this led to workers' movement as well. And you have to give certain facts. N.M. Lokhande started Bombay Hand Mills Association in 1881, and then you have to further see that how in national movement Congress supported working class cause in British owned industry and deliberately kept its movement away from Indian owned industries. And you have to refer that how Factory Act 1881 and Factory Act 1891 and 1911 and 1921, they were not meant because of sympathy for the workers. They were meant for ultimately keeping the advantage or giving advantage to the British manufacturers vis-a-vis Indian manufacturers. So in initial stage, our working class movement, which is an old social movement, you know, that is for social change. It is having more element of the spontaneity, and it is informally organized. It is informal and loosely organized in comparison to political parties and pressure groups. So that was the social movement, and naturally the first phase was very much formative stage. There was no radicalism. There was more approach in terms of seeking more favor for workers in terms of their material life. But the second phase, 1920 onwards, we see particularly why this phase is inspired from socialism, Bolshevik revolution. Successful socialist revolution in Russia inspired the working class movement 1917 onwards, which was manifested in 20s and 30s. There was greater role of leftist movement, Marxist ideology. This is the reason why Industrial Dispute Bill and Public Safety Bill was brought in 1928. Then Trade Union Act 1927. Then there were concern for industrial peace, and there were ban on industrial strikes. And in India, the role of Congress and other political parties in trade union movement also increased. It was mutually beneficial, and in 1920, All India Trade Union Congress, AITUC, led by Lala Lajpat Rai. Why I am emphasizing the name of Lala Lajpat Rai? Because this is explaining a process that how political parties started supporting the movement of trade union movement. If you can recall, Ahmedabad mill strike, Gandhi in 1918, also fasting he used as a method of satyagrah. Although there were divisions in our left labor class movement 1929, then Red Talk was formed in 1931. But it got strengthened in 1930s. CSP, that is cement, sugar and paper industries, also came into existence. And First World War was a blessing in disguise for Indian economy, and that also reinforced the wages of workers, because Britishers were forced to relocate their manufacturing units in India. So that partly worked to the advantage of Indian economy. However, the working class movement in 1940s was more militant. If you see, be it Bharat, Quit India movement 1942, or in 1940s, it became more radical, sometimes more violent, and this was the state of working class movement before independence. So you have to write in phases, and this is a question from Indian national movement also you might have studied, in history also you might have studied, so I don't think it is very difficult. It's a very easy question. Now 5b, it says that the preamble of Indian Constitution reflect itself a social contract. Elucidate. Whenever question is elucidate, you have to just explain. So preamble is social contract. Social contract, you already know that it is a contract among rational individuals for collective endeavors, philosophy, goals that they need to achieve collectively. So our preamble starts also with we people of India. So there is a contract among we people of India, and to hereby give our citizens. So naturally, it is a contract for betterment of our citizens, and finally it ends with adopt, enact and give it to ourselves. Enact and give it to ourselves. So, preamble reflects the philosophy, collective goals, higher goals, desirable goals to be collectively achieved by we people of India. And preamble, whole preamble constitute the basic structure of the constitution. And in Keswanand Bharti case, Supreme Court clearly said that preamble is integral part of parliament. It is not only a philosophical matter, it is a matter of substantive law. Unlike the judgment in Berubari case. And since 1973, preamble is referred to arrive at a basic structure. So, the contract that we have, and the Supreme Court also said that preamble is amendable. This is the reason by 42nd Amendment, socialist, secular and unity and integrity of the nation were added. This does not mean that they were not there. They were there in spirit. Now they were made in letter. This is the difference. Otherwise, things are same. So it's true that preamble is just like a social contract, and our preamble, contents of preamble is inspired from the French Revolution, which gave the slogan of liberty, equality and fraternity. So liberty, equality and fraternity is clearly there in our preamble, along with justice at the top, along with we people of India, and along with the date of enforcement. So definitely, whenever social contract means rational individuals come together for mutually beneficial social contract for higher goals, and Locke says that social contract, there was many criticism that why future generation should accept the social contract. One can ask a very innocent question, that our constitution makers, we were not there. Now our present generation or our future generation, why they should follow the agenda set or philosophy set by our ancestors or our freedom fighters or our constitution makers of Constituent Assembly? Who are they to decide our destiny? So Locke gave the best answer that right from the very beginning, right from your childhood, you are getting the benefit of that social contract. You are the beneficiary of that social contract. So you are votary and supporter of that social contract. The same is applied to us also. That whatever preamble our constitution makers have given us, that their importance has not been clarified by judiciary, but it has been noble, time tested, always favorable by the people. This is our philosophy, this is our goals, this is our higher ideals. And whole preamble is constituting basic structure. So this is very much true, and here you have to refer Locke. Although Locke is not given. So next question is 5C. Legislative Council or Vidhan Parishad is a house without any effective powers. Comment. Vidhan Parishad or Legislative Council Vidhan Parishad or Legislative Council is virtually powerless. You have to make the signal down or up. So in this way, symbolic language, you can understand the question without any effect. Comment. So first you have to highlight the statement given. First of all, if you see the Vidhan Parishad, then you will find that in case of Vidhan Parishad, firstly, its strength cannot be more than 1/3 of the Vidhan Sabha. So in terms of numerical strength, it is less. So this itself reduces its or dilutes its power. Second, there are only few states where there have been bicameral state, only 6 states. Namely UP, Bihar, Maharashtra, Karnataka, Andhra and Telangana. UP, Bihar, Maharashtra, Karnataka, Andhra and Telangana. In 1969, in Punjab and Bengal, it was abolished. In 1986, in Tamil Nadu, it got abolished based on Article 169. Article 169 says that Vidhan Parishad in a state can be created or abolished by simple majority of both houses of the parliament only after such resolution is passed first by Vidhan Sabha of the state by 2/3 majority. So its existence itself depends upon the resolution passed by Vidhan Sabha. It's not a permanent house unlike Rajya Sabha. It is permanent house in that term that it is not subject to dissolution. And it provides continuity to legislative business. So in comment part, you have to say that it provides continuity to legislative business. It is a permanent house. It cannot be dissolved. It ensures functional representation of teachers and graduates. It partly is acting as a talent pool, as 1/6 of the members are from science, art, literature, social and that of cooperative movement. But there are limitations. Third limitation, that in money bill, Vidhan Parishad or Legislative Council is powerless. It cannot delay a money bill under Article 199 for more than 14 days. Even regarding, fourthly, simple bill, Vidhan Parishad cannot delay even a simple bill for more than 3+1 months. Unlike Rajya Sabha. In simple bills, in non-money bills, there can be deadlock. There can be joint sitting at central level under Article 108, which is not, there is no counterpart of joint sitting in state legislative level. So, these are the limitations of Vidhan Parishad. But since question is comment, so you have to write. And since it is not directly elected by the people, so it lacks political legitimacy if you compare it with Vidhan Sabha. So these are the mainly points that you have to highlight. Firstly, secondly, thirdly, how it is less powerful. But in question comment, you have to highlight certain positive aspects or certain aspects which involves power of Vidhan Parishad. It's a balancing factor. It will prevent unilateral and hasty decision of the Vidhan Sabha. It will prevent hasty bills. It can delay the hasty non-money bills and so on. So in this way, you can write it easily. It's very easy. Then we move to the next question. How far is the National Commission for Backward Classes an empowered body? First question, first part of the question is regarding National Commission for OBCs or other backward classes or backward classes. Let me clarify that after a Mandal judgment of Supreme Court in Indira Shahni case, National Commission for Backward Classes or OBC was formed as a statutory body in 1993. But Modi government took initiative by 102nd Constitutional Amendment 2018. It was promoted as a constitutional body. Constitutional body. Under Article 338B. So definitely, its status was raised from statutory to constitutional body, number one. Number two, like SCs and STs, OBCs are also defined now in Constitution. SC in 341, ST in 342, and OBCs are defined in 342A. This was added by the 102nd Constitutional Amendment itself. Definition of OBC. Definition of OBCs were there. So naturally, since it has been upgraded, since that it has been given constitutional status, so its weightage will increase. However, one of the lacuna was there in this act. It empowered center and president only to identify backward classes, means states autonomy on this regard was done away with. This is the reason why Maratha reservation bill of Maharashtra was declared unconstitutional. That state was not having power to declare it. That lacuna has been rectified further by 105th constitutional amendment, by which the power of states to identify the other backward classes have been restored. So now the first part of the question clearly is more procedural, that how far National Commission for Backward Classes, an empowered body, first constitutional, second it is a national commission, the members of which are appointed by president, third they have semi-judicial powers, means they don't have punitive powers, they are recommendatory bodies, but the recommendations carries great weight because the report is laid on the floor of the house through president along with ATR, action taken report, and MOU, memorandum of understanding, that what are the recommendations which has been accepted and the reasons for not accepting certain recommendations, and it go for study, research, recommendation, analysis, changes in laws. Even it has semi-judicial power to summon in case of atrocities, studies. So recommendations, so all these are very, very important role. The National Commission itself is of great importance. It's an acknowledgement at the highest level, at the supreme law, that is constitution. This is the first part. Second part is assess its role in context of rising demand for backwardness among dominant communities. So this is a purely political question. Rising demand of backwardness. So you have to link it with the theory part. Desanskritization. Sanskritization of M.N. Srinivasan everybody knows. That in first half of the 20th century, the so-called lower caste accepted and followed the Brahminical and other practices of higher caste to elevate their social position. But in 21st century, the various castes are demanding reservation. For example, Gurjars of Rajasthan were demanding for ST status just like Meena. Like Jats in Haryana were also demanding OBC status. Then there was a demand for reservation to the non-reserved people, EWS, that was done through 103rd Constitutional Amendment 2019. So there is growing consciousness among various communities that reservation is so potent that will improvise their socio-economic condition, and which is evident from our reservation policy over the period of time. But the question is, assess its role in context of rising demand for backwardness among. So here you have to assess the role of this role of National Commission for Backward Classes. So naturally, there are so many pending demands, there are so many demands of so many communities. One of the impediment with National Commission for OBC is that after 1931 there was no caste census for OBC, number one. Number two, socio-economic social census based on caste of 2011 has not been made public, because it is being believed by the present government that divulging it or making it public will lead to greater role of caste in politics. But caste is the reality in Indian society, and its role in political sphere has increased more now than before, although its role in social sphere has diluted. But here question is, assess its role in context of. So it is facing catch-22 situation, ticklish situation, because there are so many claims and counter claims. Moreover, in Maharashtra, Marathi reservation, in Haryana, Jat reservation, or the interpretation of Article 15, 16, 46. and Article 335, they involve such ticklish issues that definitely its role would be sometimes controversial. Ultimately, cabinet has to take final decision because it is a recommendatory body. That is, finally government has to take the decision. But decision of the government cannot be arbitrary and random. It is based on systematic study and recommendation of a constitutional body. So you can write it very easily. Then next question is 5E. High concentration of economic activities and consumerism patterns in post liberalization period has led to failure of environmental movement in India. Elucidate. Means, on one hand, neoliberalism is there, popularly called LPG, liberalization, privatization, globalization, and definitely its effect is concentration of wealth. Its effect is consumerism, no doubt in it. Its effect is on higher inequalities because survival of the fittest, withdrawal of the state, withdrawal of non-meritorious subsidies. So how it has, the question is quite interesting because so far in political science or in general studies also, question on LPG was more related with economic aspect or political aspect. Here you have to link LPG with the new social movement, that is environmentalist movement, and the question says that how it has diluted environmentalist movement. Environmentalist movement. First of all, elucidate means first of all see the factors or actors who are responsible for diluting the role of environmentalist movement. First actor is of course state because it is a political decision by the state to go for LPG. Second, the role of civil society. Third, the public opinion. Fourth, the condition of our third world country, or we see international. So one by one we will discuss. If you know the framework, because whenever you write answer you have to know the framework. So how it has diluted, without actors who are responsible for diluting it, you can't write this question. So first of all, state has tremendous pressure to deliver, to raise the living standard, to increase the size of the economy, to accelerate GDP growth. So state will always see environmentalist movement as threat to development, growth, and they will be seeing the environmentalist movement as politically motivated, funded by many multinational companies of West to stop the development. Often you will be finding that in third world countries, it is being argued that poverty, malnutrition, minimum needs approach has to be followed first. Environment is the luxury of the West. So state, as you see in case of India also, many NGOs, but why FCRA was extended to NGOs also. Earlier it was Foreign Contribution Regulatory Act, 2010. Because many NGOs allegedly were working as tools of multinational companies of West to derail the development on the name of environment to serve the commercial interest of the companies. It is being alleged on Narmada Bachao Andolan also, or the movement which was opposing the raising of dams or big projects and interlinking of rivers. They believe that it will lead to huge loss. So this is first state. Second, civil society itself. The various groups in civil society, be it working class groups, be it peasants, be it peer groups, they also are not able to connect themselves with the environmentalist movement because their minimum needs or their situation is different, and many believe that environmentalist movement is not a mass movement or not a social movement in India. Although in Chipko movement, we see feminism also, we see linkages of feminist movement and environmentalist movement, because that led to genuine concern of massive cutting of trees. But now state has taken many initiatives like plantation, like increasing the forest cover, by like mitigational efforts, like COP, participating in COP commitment and all those. Then public opinion also sometimes go against the environmentalist movement, because in neoliberalism context is LPG. So people, there is more consumerism, and in consumerism focus is on creation of wealth, assets, living standards, and moreover the Rio de Janeiro Earth Summit, Sustainable Development, Convention on Biological Diversity, and other protocols, treaties and agreements and Paris Agreement have also diluted the environmentalist movement, because now state itself is working, people themselves are working for planting of trees, for greeneries, international efforts are already there. So the political space for environmental movement is considerably shrinking. This is a fact. So this is more reinforced by consumerism. This is very much true. So you have to accept this. Then electoral behavior. Next question is on electoral behavior. Electoral behavior 6A. Electoral behavior of voters is governed more by social and economic factors than political factors. Very true, although question is explained. So naturally you have to accept that social and economic factors are more there. First I talk about social factor. In social factor, social identities are very much important, be it based on caste, based on religion, based on region, based on language, based on ethnicity. They are, because we see in third world countries like India, the identity politics is dominant. Identity politics is based on passion, not reason. And identity politics is very dominant, and identities are social, existence is natural. So social identities play a very important role. For example, regarding caste, it is said that Indian people don't cast their vote, they vote their caste. You see rising communalism, casteism, regionalism, identity politics and so on. So the social factor is so important. The issue of reservation, pro-reservation, anti-reservation, pro-Hindi, South Indian, North Indian, so many. Ethnicity, religion, language, all these are issues. So in electoral behavior, then economic factor in terms of delivery, in terms of this material delivery, be it pharmaceuticals, be it education, be it health services, be it freebies or subsidies or so on. So they are more guided. So here you have not writing superficial answer. You have to concretely correlate it with the Indian political system. In 21st century, whichever party comes to power, whichever loses, that does not matter. We are less concerned with that. Our concern is that development has assumed the center stage. Governance has assumed the center stage in politics. Now, every party is talking about development. Every party is talking about good governance. So, they are knowing that unless people are being benefited, every party, you will see, that is talking about governance, although their modus operandi may be different, their methodology may be different. Some may believe in freebies, some may believe that freebies will be detrimental in long run. Some will be more focusing on social infrastructure, some parties will be more focusing on economic infrastructure. There is consensus on economic reforms. There is LPG going on irrespective of the change of the government. So it's true. It's true that political factor is less important in voting behavior, although one cannot say not important, less important. Political factor like what is the manifesto of the party, what is the ideology of the party, people hardly see that. At most, the charismatic leader of the party they are seeing. But the manifesto, the ideology, the programs, the past track record, otherwise no new party could have emerged. Otherwise, even national parties would not have diluted, their role would not have diluted. Otherwise, there would not have been changing governments and dynamism. So, Congress system in the language of Professor Rajni Kothari ended in 1967, and the emergence of regional parties after 67, and 1990 onwards we see that identity politics were dominant, but at the same time political factor is less important. One cannot say not important. So dilution is the word, not ending. So you have to keep into account these factors. Then 6b, the doctrine of basic structure of the Constitution has enhanced the power of judicial review of the Supreme Court. Examine is mainly true. There is no doubt. 6b, basic structure of Constitution has enhanced the power of judicial review. Let me tell you that first of all, judicial review is not written in our Constitution explicitly. It is written explicitly in American Constitution. Judicial review is implied in Article 13. It is implied in Article 32. It is implied in Article 141, 142. They are implied in that. That judicial review is not clearly written. It is implied in these articles. However, you have not to write only on judicial review. Question is on regarding basic structure of the Constitution. So even though it was not explicitly defined, Supreme Court used its power of judicial review even before the judgment in Keswanand Bharti case on 24th April 1973. Keswanand Bharti case on 24th April 1973, when it gave the concept of basic structure of the Constitution. If you see the background, then Golaknath's case 1967, Supreme Court said that fundamental rights were immutable and transcendental and could not be amended by Parliament, but 24th and 25th Amendment added 31C. So all those background you need not to elaborate more. You have to focus more on judicial review in relation to basic structure. So this new doctrine was given in Keswanand Bharti case, and in that Supreme Court asserted that judicial review was the basic structure of the Constitution. Parliamentary system, separation of powers are the basic structure of the Constitution. In Rajnarayan versus Indira Gandhi case, it said rule of law, judicial review, democracy with fair and fair election was the basic structure. In Minerva Mills case, it said balance of part 3 and part 4 was the basic structure. In Vaman Rao case in 1981, it gave cut-off date of 24th April. In IR Coelho case 2007, it said that underlying principles of under 14, 15, 19 and 21 are the basic structure. In Keswanand Bharti case itself, it said the preamble is basic structure. Along with that, in SR Bommai case, it said federalism, secularism, which are also there in our preamble, was the basic structure, parliamentary system, separation of powers. In 1997, Chandra Kumar case, it said that judicial review is not only with Supreme Court but High Court as well. Power of judicial review is with. So this definitely broadened the purview and scope of judicial review. And this was further asserted in all the subsequent cases. And 9th schedule case, Supreme Court clearly said that 9th schedule cannot give a blanket immunity to the laws inserted in it, and there could be judicial review if it is added after 24th April 1973. Even the provisions of Article 123(4), which kept presidential promulgation out of judicial review, was done away with. Even pardoning powers is subject to judicial review under Article 72 and Article 161. So what we see, that to prevent arbitrariness, one-sidedness, misuse of powers, judiciary has played a historical role by reinforcing and promoting judicial review, and by this its power has increased over the period of time. There is no doubt in it. Some critics say it is judicial adventurism, or it is judicial overstepping, or some say it is encroachment in the domain of executive and legislature. But ultimately, this power is meant to ensure supremacy of the constitution, to ensure rule of law, to ensure constitutionalism. And this is being there. So you can write it this question easily. Then next question, question 6C, says that discuss the composition and functions of interstate council. So if this is very simple and traditional question, even GS students can do, that interstate council under Article 263 formed in 1990 based on Sarkaria Commission recommendation. The most important outcome of the Sarkaria Commission recommendation on center-state relationship was formation of interstate council. So first, composition: Prime Minister is the chairman, 6 cabinet ministers are there, and all chief ministers, including that of semi-states, are members of it. So why interstate council? Because Sarkaria Commission came to the conclusion that lack of institutional forum for center-state engagement, lack of communication between center and state is leading to the communication gap, leading to misuse of 356 and leading to erosion in the relationship. So composition itself is self-explanatory, that this is the composition of interstate council chaired by Prime Minister, number 1. Number 2, interstate council will promote cooperative federalism. Center and states must have healthy, cooperative, complementary relationship, and for that the interstate council play very important role. In this there is open discussion, free discussion, which is recorded as well. So this is how, this is the forum for coordination, communication and cooperation among various states and center on one hand. So vertical between center and state and horizontal between states is also there. And yes, it has to the great extent has served its purpose, because it is the most important outcome of Sarkaria Commission recommendation, and Punchi Commission also 2007 to 10 also accepted that, and the very basis of its continuation and strengthening and periodic meeting itself tells the success story, particularly in wake of tax reforms, globalization and greater need of cooperation. So next is 7th question. Examine the unique features of 73rd Constitutional Amendment. Do you think that this amendment would contribute in achieving the goal of empowerment of marginalized sections of the society. First, unique features of 73rd Constitutional Amendment. So, Article 40 was there in original Constitution, organizing and empowering village panchayats. But 73rd Amendment provided many compulsory provisions, like 3-tier system in state having population of more than 20 lakh, 1/3 reservation for women, reservation for SCs and STs as per their population, State Finance Commission under Article 243I, State Election Commissioner under Article 243K, District Planning Committee. All these things are unique features of 73rd Constitutional Amendment. For PRIs, for Panchayati Raj institutions, added in 11th schedule from Article 243 to 243O, and 29 subjects under Article 243G to be transferred to the delegated to the local bodies from states. So, this is the first part of the question. Do you think that amendment would contribute in achieving the goal of empowerment of the marginalized sections of the society? Of course, yes. Be it gender justice by women reservation, 1/3, now most of the states have raised it to 50%. Be it SCs and STs, be it local communities, be it local population, be it marginalized communities, they are mainstreamed, they are being educated. This is making our democracy substantive. This is making our democracy participative. This is leading to development as per locally felt needs, and this is further reinforced by PESA, Panchayat Extension in Scheduled Areas 1996 onwards, Gram Nyaya Act 2008, First Class Magistrate for all civil and criminal cases for group of villages, and this process is going on, and the merits are far outweighing the demerits. This is the reason for continuation of it. So, of course, it has brought revolutionary changes, although when I say revolutionary, does not means like French Revolution in a very small period of time. It is ongoing revolution. So, now the Panchayati Raj institution, PRIs are working well, and we have their negatives have been corrected as well, their finances have been strengthened as well, and their level of education, literacy and technology also playing in this positive role in this regard. Then 7th B says that the speaker represents the freedom and dignity of the house. Examine. So, you cannot say speaker is infallible and God and everything positive. We have seen the biased role of many speakers, particularly in relation to anti-defection law. And we see that in various cases, speaker, although they are expected to be neutral, impartial, and but they favor the ruling party, because Speaker of the House is the one who is elected by the House members and is among the members, means is winning the election from party ticket. So it's not that you have to write only positives when you are examining. Right, that I am saying at the very beginning. But the first thing you have to write, the speaker represents freedom and dignity of the house, no doubt in it. Freedom and dignity. After all, role of a speaker is not like a principal of a school. Role of a speaker is just like a referee, to ensure that business of the house is conducted as per the rules. He accepts point of order whenever there is procedural snag, and he is deciding the things in a more impartial manner and giving protection not only to ruling party but to the opposition as well, and is the voice of the house. Many times the unanimous resolution is passed by the house, and speaker in case of Article 122 also ensures that the debates of parliament is getting immunity from judicial intervention. Then speaker some exercises semi-judicial powers. In case of breach of parliamentary privileges for center in India, Article 105 provide for parliamentary privileges both in individual and collective capacity. So it is the speaker which ensures that the parliamentary privileges are not being breached. It is the speaker who is playing the role of protection and voice of the whole house. It is the speaker who is mainly responsible to conduct the house in a smooth and impartial manner. So this is the positive aspect, but a negative aspect I have already highlighted. So I don't think this question need more elaboration. It is very simple question it is. Discuss the policy initiatives of the 14th Finance Commission aimed towards promoting and strengthening agricultural development in India. So let me clarify the question that people are more talking about 15th Finance Commission for 2020-2015 because we are in 2022. But question is regarding 14th Finance Commission. Let me clarify this 2015-2020. And it was the recommendation of 14th Finance Commission that to raise the share of the states from 32 to 42% for fiscal federalism. But we are not supposed to write about Finance Commission because question is regarding the policy initiatives of the 14th Finance Commission aimed towards promoting and strengthening agricultural development in India. So as far as agricultural development in India is concerned, one may say that 14th Finance Commission is a constitutional body under Article 280 for recommending distribution between center and states. But when we talk about agriculture, first of all, we must know that agriculture is a state subject. But agriculture is so important. Highest population lives on and sustain their life based on agriculture. That center play the role of facilitator. In agriculture sector, there is Ministry of Agriculture at central level. There are agriculture marketing and other APMs and mandis and Artiyas. Recent farm laws were there in last year, which was revoked. So the role of 14th Commission, Finance Commission was known for fiscal federalism, increasing the role of states, and 14th Finance Commission's recommendation are in tune with the concerns of our agriculture sector, as a National Agriculture Policy 2000 favor a growth of 4% annually. So that was the first stated target that Finance Commission has to work in tandem. Greater synergy and cooperation between center and state for agricultural growth, and more making agriculture a proud profession and rewarding. And Prime Minister also said that by 2022 we will double the income of agriculture. And it is also being said that now Indian agriculture is more competitive than before. So naturally the strength areas are being promoted, and grey areas on pulses, on oil seeds and others are to be addressed accordingly. So this is also you can write in development, agricultural development in regard to 14th Finance Commission. This is very specific question. Now 8th question, which is the last question, having 3 parts. A, it says that ethnicity is underlying causes which poses a great challenge in the social revolution. Comment. No. Ethnicity is underlying cause which poses a great challenge in the resolution of the problems in Northeast regime of India. So question is ethnicity and Northeast. You have not to write other things. Northeast. So first of all, you have to clarify that ethnicity involves caste, ethnicity involves religion, ethnicity involves language, ethnicity involves blood origin. So one is race based on racial features, Mongoloid, Negroid. One is ethnicity based on the presumption that their ancestors were common. It can be based either on religion, it can be based on either on caste, or it can be based either on culture and language. Like Tamils believe that her ancestors were same. Muslims believe that their ancestors are same. Sanatan Aryan Hindus think that their ancestors were same. But here question is regarding Northeast. First of all, you must know that in Northeast, with such a less population, there are more than 100 plus tribal groups with deep identity politics, lack of connectivity, poor infrastructure, poverty, historical legacy of the problems like Naga problem. It was there even before independence. Aged Fijo announced independence on 14th August 1947 itself, and later NSCN and even Naga talks still, the Naga issue is very much controversial. So ethnicity has played greater role in Northeast. You will find all kinds of the problem. First, you will find people of common ethnicity in India-Myanmar border. So they consider their ancestors were same. But now there is a political boundary. So both countries have to go for FMR, free movement area region. Then there are Rohingyas. Then there are influx of Muslims from Bangladesh through Meghalaya hills to Assam. We have seen the Samgan Parishad and its movement, all Assam students movement in 1980s and 1985 Assam Accord, based on which the 1986 Citizenship Amendment was done. Assam was the first state where 1951 NRC was conducted. Then by 1986 amendment, Article 6A was added. So whether it's religious, in Northeast caste factor is not there, but religious factor is there. If you see Nagaland and Meghalaya and Mizoram, more than 90% population Christian. If you see Manipur, plains are Metais, mostly Hindus, Aryanized, and hillies Nagas and Kukis. If you see Meghalaya, Garo, Khasi, Jaintia. If you see Assam, the Kamtapur region or the Ulfa movement, NSCN movement in not only Nagaland but affecting Arunachal and Mizoram also. So all kinds of problems are there in Northeast, and ethnicity, identity politics, all they are very much dominant. This is the reason why we have various secessionist movements in Northeast. In spite of, if you see the political map of Northeast in 1947, then Manipur and Tripura were princely states, and there was Assam and Northeast Frontier Agency, NEFA. However, various new states were created in wake of the sub-regional demands. Like 1962, Nagaland was created by 13th Constitutional Amendment, separated from Assam. Then 28th Constitutional Amendment, 28th Constitutional Amendment 1971, MMT, Manipur, Meghalaya and Tripura were formed. Then 1987, Mizoram and Arunachal were formed. So Northeast Amendment Act also it is called. Still, with so many statehood, still political aspirations of self-rule has not been fulfilled. Still the problems of ethnicity is so deep rooted. Still the international borders and intervention also making it more complex. Still there is a effect of religion, and also one factor you should not miss, that the geographical, they are most of the northeastern states are only physically connected by land through chicken route. chicken neck, 22 kilometers Siliguri, and many times people of northeast in other parts of India very much unfortunate, very much unacceptable that they face derogatory remarks that you are Chinese, like just Chinese. This will alienate them. They will not be helping in mainstreaming them. So that will further lead to alienation. It is a matter of national security, territorial integrity and unity of the country. So the point is that you have to act accordingly. The making of next question is the penultimate question. It is the making of Indian Constitution is described as an attempt towards social revolution. So Indian Constitution, it is itself called a revolutionary document. Your question is on social revolution. Partly yes, but not only social revolution. You have to go beyond it. Economic revolution also, political revolution also. Why not political? Because in 1951-52 election, only 15% people were literate, but more than 50% voting took place. And now voting has increased over the period of time. Awareness has increased over the period of time. So first we have to see the social dimension. Social revolution. So our constitution clearly provided for fundamental rights in part 3, community rights in part 4, and other rights like trading rights in 301 to 307, voting rights and article 326, some constitutional, some legal rights. But it is a social revolution, because if you see our social society in Indian society, huge inequality was there, Jamindari system was there, bonded labor was there, British legacy was there, casteism, communalism, regionalism were followed deliberately as a matter of divide and rule policy. So historical legacy was there, but our constitution provided for equality. Our constitution provided for abolition of untouchability under article 117. Our constitution provided for equality 14 and 15, 16, 17 and 18. Our constitution provided for freedom, means for all social classes, be it deprived, marginalized, underprivileged sections of the society, be it SCs, STs, OBCs, and whole article 46 provided to uplift the weaker sections. Moreover, whole part 16 is provided for upliftment of weaker sections, article 330 to 342. So it is a revolutionary document, no doubt. Ultimately, those who were considered untouchables, those who were considered of lower origin, those who were considered to be behind parda, or those who were considered to be impure, or those who were considered to be minorities, or those who were considered to be weak and neglected and not in the mainstream of the society, they were brought. They are now empowered. They are mainstreamed. They have their faith in democracy has increased thanks to our constitution. So our constitution is credited for this social revolution, for egalitarianism, for ending the feudal vestiges and imperial vestiges and legacy, the bad legacy. It has helped in modernization. It has helped in urbanization and gradually diluting identity politics. Gradually. We are not like developed West. But this is one aspect. You have to go beyond that. In economic area also, Jamindari abolition or implementation of article 39, equitable distribution of wealth and resources, preventing concentration of wealth, inclusion of 31A, 31B and 31C. So in economic sphere, in political sphere, our constitution has worked quite well. So we don't have only constitution, we have constitutionalism, we have constitutional morality, and that has been further strengthened and promoted. So last question now, we will be discussing that how far it is correct for the regional parties have strengthened Indian democracy and federal system. Substantiate your answer with suitable examples. So here you have a scope to write real political parties, leaders and so on. But first part of the question, how far regional parties have strengthened Indian democracy? So first of all, regional parties have both positive and negative role. So as far as positive role is concerned, they have definitely strengthened our democracy, because national parties could not accommodate the regional aspirations of the people. So regional parties first emerged in Tamil Nadu and Punjab, and later after 1967 in various states, and various new social groups were the basis for regional parties, although there were conflicting federalism. But at the same time, 1990 onwards, the coalition era started, that strengthened our federal polity, that reduced the misuse of 356, thanks to also Sarkaria Commission, Punchi Commission, intervention of Supreme Court in Bombay case. So it's not only regional parties, Supreme Court, commissions, maturing democracy, public opinion, judicial intervention, all these are credited to strengthen our federal polity. But it's true that regional parties have definitely played positive role, and linguistic reorganization of the states have played a very positive role in strengthening our democracy by accommodating their legitimate aspirations of self-rule. So our State Reorganization Act were successful. So regional parties, they have played positive role. In this regard, first part you have to write positive role, and you have to give the examples of Anandpur Sahab resolution 1973 by Akali Dal. You have to give resolution of Rajmanar Committee, Sarkaria Commission, and then Punchi Commission and Supreme Court and all those things. Besides, the regional parties, example, for example, Dravidian parties in Tamil Nadu, DMK, later AIDMK after 1972, like Telugu Bidda, son of soil theory in Andhra Pradesh, Khams and Reddy's dominance in Andhra Pradesh, Telangana movement and its creation as state in 2014, then Vokalis and Lingayats in Karnataka. These identity politics are dominant, and then various caste-based also parties like SP, BSP, which are focusing more on caste. Then agrarian-based parties like INLD, RLD. Then those parties which are very much specific to the region, like NSCN in Nagaland, National Conference and PDP in Jammu and Kashmir. So there are various parties, there are various examples. Examples you can give. Assam Gan Parishad, I just referred, emerged after all Assam students movement against influx of population from Bangladesh. So many examples you can give. And regional parties partly have played positive role, but let me clarify, you cannot write one-sided answer, and you have to give the negative aspect of regional politics also, that it is responsible for identity politics, which is a politics of passion, not reason. Secondly, many regional forces have become secessionist, they have become threat to national unity and territorial integrity, particularly if you see NSCN or ULFA or so many other parties initially in initial years after independence in Tamil Nadu also. So the task was stupendous, and still we are nation in making. So there are negative roles of regional parties. It is being also argued that regional parties are going in national parliament, but they are only specific to the region and their state, and they are not concerned with other states. Sometimes their interests come more in conflict with each other, and in parliament, which should be more discussing national issues, are getting derailed, and regional issues are being more discussed, and various fronts are being formed, like federal front and a third front, fourth front. Sometimes it leads to political instability, like in 97, 98, we'll see, because of 1990 also, VP Singh government and Chandrasekhar government. So political instability is one of the issue. Then unlike national parties, they don't focus on national issues like terrorism, like those issues which are concerned with the whole nation. So these are the negatives as well. We cannot say all is well with regional parties, and we cannot in a blanket manner we cannot support the given statement as if it is 100% correct. So we have ample examples to give. If you have state wise also, you can go for like Jharkhand Mukti Morcha, in Uttarakhand Kranti Dal, then TRS Telangana Rashtriya Samiti, then the NSCN movement. So many examples you can give, and most of the political parties, they earlier were pressure groups or social movement, and later they converted themselves into a political party. So definitely, had the regional parties not been accommodated, the somehow they could have assumed more secessionist and separatist tendencies. So all this, I have concluded the paper. So for some it may be big, but it's a UPSC paper, you see. So you have to go for more elaboration, and soon I will be discussing the second paper as well, because it's now is 26th September. So I'll be discussing the second paper in next class. That's it for today. Thank you.